Here are two things that are keeping you as an entrepreneur stuck. These two things are preventing you from having the freedom that you want. They're also preventing you from having the income that you want and deserve. How do I know? Hey, my name is Wayne Mullins, the founder of Ugly Mug Marketing and creator of the Freelance Accelerator. And I know that these things are keeping you stuck because these two things kept me stuck for nearly 7 years in my business. These two things, they prevented me as the entrepreneur, as the founder, from having the freedom that I started this agency to have. And also they prevented me from earning the type of the income that I personally wanted to make. These two things are detrimental to your success as an entrepreneur. And these two things are so counterintuitive because we think that we're doing these two things and we think that we are helping for the betterment of our company. But the reality is we are self-sabotaging. So what are these two things? The first one is this: I and you are the answering machine. What does that mean? That means for me, for the first 7 years of this business, every time someone had a problem, a challenge with a customer, a vendor, or whatever it may be, they would come to me because I was the answering machine. I had the answer and I could tell them exactly what to do. But here's the other part of that. I had conditioned and trained them that I was the answering machine, that I was the one with all of the answers. Now, is that true for you? Do you find yourself constantly saying, man, I just wish these people could do the work without having to come to me? Or maybe you find yourself thinking every time they don't come to me, they just create more problems, right? They don't do it the way I would do it. So the first mindset shift is this, that you have to stop being the answering machine. Chances are you started your business because you wanted more freedom and because you wanted more income. The problem is when you're the answering machine, you have no freedom and you're prevented from earning the type of money that you deserve. Why is that? That is because you have conditioned and you have trained everyone on your team to come to you every single time there's a problem or an opportunity or anything they don't want to think through. They come to you. And when you do this, you are becoming the thing that holds back your organization. So it's easy to look around and say, it's because of the economy, or it's because of my team isn't motivated, or they don't take responsibility, or because the competition is tough. But the reality is you are what's holding your organization back if you are the answering machine. So for me, I had to break this habit. And the way I broke this habit was I wrote a sticky note and I put it on my computer. And it said, ask, don't answer. Ask, don't answer. What does that mean? It means every time someone would come to me with a question, instead of just giving them the answer, which I could easily do, I would instead ask them. So if somebody came to me and said, hey, we've got this customer, they're upset about X, Y, and Z, what do we do? I would just flip it around and say, I don't know, what do you think we should do? And then they would tell me what they think we should do. And I would ask them more clarifying questions to help them think through how to solve that problem. Can you relate to that? Do you feel that? Do you feel that everyone keeps coming to you with all the problems, all the opportunities, all of the things that come to you because maybe you think they don't think for themselves? The reality is I thought the same thing, right? I thought, man, if I just had people who would think for themselves, people who are willing to take responsibility, I had this long list of things that my team was doing wrong. When in reality, I had conditioned, I had trained them to treat me this way and to operate this way as the answering machine. The second mindset that's going to hold you back as an entrepreneur is you must let go of this notion that you cannot allow your team to fail. So this ties directly into number one. As a matter of fact, you have to be willing to let your team fail. We all know this to be true, that we learn far more from our failures than we do from our successes. It's true in all areas of life, whether that's in relationships, whether that's in family, whether that's in business or finance. We learn so much more from our failures than we do our successes. And yet, so often we try to protect our team from failing. Right? We don't want to look bad, right? We don't want to come back on us looking bad. We don't want to make a customer upset. We don't want to make a vendor upset. Whatever it may be, we protect them from failure. We jump in and save the day. So you have to become comfortable allowing your team to fail. And this is very, very difficult for us as entrepreneurs to do because, our businesses, these are our babies. This is what we poured our blood, sweat, and tears into. Can you relate to that? You poured your life into this thing and you don't want to allow people to fail when it can be prevented. But I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to challenge you, you've got to create the space and the grace to allow your people to fail so that they can learn those lessons. We do this thing called a post-mortem. So anytime at the end of a project or at the end of a meeting or at the end of an event, we do a post-mortem. What is that? That is simply where we look back and we reflect and we ask ourselves, what went right? What went wrong? What do we need to do differently next time? So when you turn your people free and you stop being the answering machine, right? And you give them their brains back and you allow them to think and make decisions on their own, they're gonna make mistakes. They're gonna do things differently than you would do them. But that is why you have your team. And that is why you hopefully have them aligned around the 4 most powerful questions that you should ask your team. That's another video you can find on my channel. And when you have your team aligned around those questions, and when you are willing to allow them to fail, it's amazing what happens. You create an environment and a culture where your business can grow without you being the hindrance to that growth. So many times as entrepreneurs, we become the hindrance to that growth. Maybe that is you. Maybe you feel stuck and maybe you're looking at your team thinking it's their fault. If I just had a better team. All great leadership starts with the person in the mirror. That is where great leadership starts. So you need to start with yourself. You have created the team. You have enabled the team. You have allowed the team that you have to exist, whether through deliberate actions or through deliberate inaction. You have created the environment and the culture that you have. And you alone are the one who can change that. So if you're tired of being the answering machine, if you're tired of being the one that has to make all key decisions, if you're tired of having to be on call 24/7 because you can't seem to trust your team, you alone can change that. And I'm going to challenge you to start with these 2 things. Number 1, stop being the answering machine. And number 2, be willing to let your team fail. After the failure, yes, walk them through what they could have and maybe should have done differently during that failure. But instead of telling them, ask them, hey, what could you have done differently to prevent this failure, or to prevent this customer from being upset, or to prevent this order from being late to the customer? So I want to challenge you to stop being the answering machine. And number 2, allow your team to fail. When you do these 2 things, here's an amazing thing that's going to happen. You as the leader are going to have way more freedom, and it's going to free you up to make way more money. Go ahead and click subscribe because I've got more great content coming. And if you don't subscribe, you're probably going to miss that out. My goal is to help you reach your goals, and I'm going to share what I've learned along the way. Until next time.